It's a great community event. We have a lot of fun. Our group, we've got 14 boats sponsored out here this year, and a tug-of-war team. We're here to raise money for the River Legacy Foundation, a great local community-based foundation that raises money, that does a lot of great things with our Parks and Recreation Department. They do wonderful things here in our community, and I'm tickled to be part of this for the 15th year and help raise some money for a very, very worthy cause.
Because my mom's a teacher and I just wanted something to do after school, so I chose this when the opportunity came.
We make boats for the kids and for the adults, and then we provide sheets for other companies for them to make boats as well. Just everybody have a good time. Just for the kids' experience, because they get excited, they look forward to it, like, you know, when's it gonna happen?
It takes some engineering, it takes some creativity, and it takes knowing, you know, math, science, and things like that. So it's wonderful for the community. It's a great learning lesson, and then it's just a lot of fun to build a boat out of cardboard and then play with it in the water. Well, it is our 21st annual Cardboard Boat Regatta. We have more than 145 boats here that were created completely out of cardboard, and some of these are just so creative it's not even funny. And they are going to race them in Hurricane Harbor's wave pool.
Well, we're doing it at our school, and it just looked really fun.
It's a great community event. We have a lot of fun. Our group, we've got 14 boats sponsored out here this year, and a tug-of-war team. We're here to raise money for the River Legacy Foundation, a great local community-based foundation that raises money, that does a lot of great things with our Parks and Recreation Department. They do wonderful things here in our community, and I'm tickled to be part of this for the 15th year and help raise some money for a very, very worthy cause.
Because my mom's a teacher and I just wanted something to do after school, so I chose this when the opportunity came.
On behalf of the board and the staff of River Legacy Foundation and the River Legacy Living Science Center and River Legacy Parks, I want to welcome you to Boat Building School 2011. And so we're excited to have you with us today, and we're excited to share with you the good stuff that we've learned over the years. Our faculty has got a lot of experience that they want to share with you. Hopefully you all stopped out at the table out front and picked up various tidbits of information. I want to go through some of that real quickly so that you can anticipate where we're going. We're starting now, obviously. We'll finish by noontime, and our presenters have said they'll hang late afterwards if there's extensive questions that you might have. So I want to thank you all in advance for your attendance today and for your attendance, hopefully, at the regatta. We're looking forward to a fun year. It's our 22nd annual Cardboard Boat Building Regatta. Lots of neat history. We started in River Legacy Park, in that little mud puddle over there, and we never did it in the river, but we did do it in the mud puddle, and then graduated to Hurricane Harbor. So we hope that you have a fun time when you get there. As I said, this is our 22nd annual, and on the materials that you've got, you should note that the cardboard boat regatta is being held on April 30th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So April 30th, and rumor has it from the Weather Channel that we are working on heating up the water as we speak, thanks to the sun. Last weekend did not help. All proceeds from this, so if you're looking at why are we doing this, the reason that we do this, the River Legacy Foundation, etc., do this, all proceeds go to to support the park, support the Living Science Center, and our other programs. And at the end, or if you get up and walk around for whatever reason, there's a table up top here that has other information about all of the neat stuff that River Legacy does in the community, or for the community. Want to thank right up front our sponsors, and the reason for some of those sponsors. Bates Container generously donates the cardboard for schools and nonprofits, which leads me to this unique orange document that you might have picked up. If you're a nonprofit, a church, a school, whatever, you can get your cardboard for free thanks to our friends at Bates Container. They'll also be there in what's called a corporate challenge that I'll mention in a minute. The other sponsor that we want to thank is Westlake Arlington Hardware. They stock all of the supplies needed to build boats. They're our official supplier for the Cardboard Boat Regatta. And so they've been with us for many years, and in fact, I've got a few things that they brought that I'll be giving away, some door prizes. We figured everybody's got doors at home, so we've got some cutters instead of a door. It's a little bit of humor there. Not much, obviously. Okay. By the way, if anybody says that my name's Jay Ryan, let's see if it works, and if it doesn't work, I'll change my name just for the sake of... this is on TV, too, by the way. Sorry about that. And then the last sponsor, as you would suspect, is Fort Worth Star-Telegram. They've always been very supportive to us and many other groups in town that are supporting the community. So we want to thank up front the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. The materials you got when you walked in, you received or should have received a boat building manual. Everything you'd ever want to know or forget about building a boat out of cardboard. And that manual is available up front, or if somebody you know can't make it here, couldn't make it here for the school, it's available online for you to download. Our site is riverlegacy.org. Work your way through the site to the cardboard boat building, and you've got the forms, all of the information that you can download and print locally on your computer, the applications, all of the instructions, all of that kind of stuff is at riverlegacy.org. The other things that are going on, we're on Facebook, and you can find those links and that information off of our site as well. And in fact, we're trying to drag ourselves into the present, and we will be posting scores again this year of time scores during the races on April 30th. We'll be posting scores on riverlegacy.org through our Facebook account. So if you've got a smartphone or a phone that can interface with that, we will be Facebooking those scores, and I think Twittering some things as well throughout the event. So Twitter, that's not a tick, that's something different. A tick is different than a Twitter. But anyway, so riverlegacy.org should be your resource for all of that. We also have a couple other things going on during the regatta. One is a corporate challenge. We do have the current winner of the corporate challenge here in the crowd with us, and that would be Randall Mill Pharmacy, Gary Daly over here. He's one of our instructors. And numbers of historical corporate challenge winners, from General Motors to Bates Containers to other companies that have brought their people out and had a fun day and surrounded themselves with the volleyball and the tug of war and the boat competition, all for fun to win a corporate challenge. Good time had by all. We also have a high school challenge. That's one of our trophies for a high school challenge. So if you are with a high school, or know other high schools that you want to get them to come and participate, and that's kind of like the corporate challenge. You earn points for doing certain things. and those points then lead us to awarding a high school challenge winner. And then the third one, which is under consideration, and we'll announce it as we get close, but if you know of anybody that's interested in this, we're thinking about doing a church challenge. And that church challenge would then be able to create some additional interest or competition among the various church entries to the competition. Just as a detail, if you've been around, how many people have been to a regatta in the past? Good. So we've got some folks that are experienced and some folks that are new. Last year we did something very different. Instead of having the youth boats go in the lazy river at Hurricane Harbor, which was very time consuming and fun, we took and focused all of our attention and all of our resources of lifeguards and people able to watch and all of that kind of stuff. We focused that on the main wave pool. So all of our boat regatta events will be going on in the main wave pool, including all of the youth time trials. So the youth time trials will start off and they will do a V. They'll go out to a buoy and come back, and that will be the youth time trials in the wave pool. And when we get to adult time trials, those people will be doing a U-shape around two other buoys. And then for other events during the later on qualification times, the later on times of actual competition, some people will actually do an M-shaped route in the pool. And so it gets kind of fun, and then the crescendo of all of that is that we turn on the actual waves. And so some people will actually be in their cardboard boat, which will have been in the water 2 or 3 times. So they tend to gain a little bit of sogginess and flexibility that probably engineering techniques that you'll hear about here will help you engineer around. But then the wave pool comes along, and that's where we end up with some fun awards as well as the Titanic Award for crashing in. You don't burn when you're on water, but crashing into the water. So at any rate, so those type of details. While you're at Hurricane Harbor, while we've got lots of things going on, as I said, the corporate challenge will start out with volleyball and tug of war competition while we're doing our youth time trials. The Hooks Lagoon is also open, and that's included in your admission. And if you have X number of people that are in your boat, that gets you certain admission tickets. Other admission tickets are $8 per person. You can also buy a wristband that gets you unlimited time on the tornado ride. That will be open during the event. We have one other thing going on, if there's not too much already, and that is a build on site. So if you or someone you know is interested in participating but can't build a boat for a month in advance or weeks in advance, or some people show up with a refrigerator box and stick their kids in it to float in the water, whatever. But there is a day of the event fun build on site where you pay your fee, you're given the cardboard, the plastic, the duct tape. That's the only time that duct tape is available or allowed is on the build on site, and you get to compete in the wave pool for the build on site competition. So that's another fun time. So, and then last couple of points I want to make before we go on to our on our agenda here is that we're always interested in having people volunteer with us. We need a lot of people, maybe 200 people or so, on the volunteer side of the organization. And if you know somebody that wants to volunteer an hour of their time or 2 hours of their time or whatever, we really appreciate it. We need them to pre-register with us. They can do that by sending us an email through riverlegacy.org or whatever, or calling us and saying, hey, I've got a church group that would like to volunteer, or I've got this high school that has X students or whatever. We'd love to coordinate with you to have you help the event work. And then the last thing I want to remind you of, and I will do so again at the end, we've got an evaluation form that we want you all to fill out, the yellow form, so that you can evaluate how things go today. This session, as I said earlier, is being recorded. You can watch it again on channel 16 on the Time Warner system. And if you wanted to rent or borrow a copy, you can just give us $20 and we'll hold it, and you can bring it back. We'll give you your $20 back, and you can detail into the sessions that you're about to see. So you can reserve a copy that way. So by the time we finish today, and we're right on schedule, you will be ready to float your own boat. And you'll be able to float it at Hurricane Harbor for our Cardboard Boat Regatta 22nd annual, and it'll start at 9 o'clock, finish right at about 4 o'clock, and we're looking for a lot of fun. So we've got topics coming up, as you can see on the agenda. We've got some engineering tips by Jeff Williams. We've got boat building supplies, race rules, those kind of things that and construction tips that Gary Daly and Bob Sherwood will cover with you. Then we've got a few other sessions that are on the agenda that we might have to be a little flexible with here, but nonetheless, that's what we're up to. I'll do a quick wrap up, and then we're on our way. The last thing I want to mention, if you've got questions, as long as they're kind of questions light, not too detailed, please don't hesitate to raise your hand, and if the presenter can get to them, he will do so. Or she will do so, and just go ahead and do that. But if there are in-depth questions, our presenters will stay late to drill into those questions that you might have. So with that in mind, let's get on to our first session. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we're going to do our best to be on schedule and float your boat. So Jeff Williams is here to do the first session. Let's welcome Jeff.
Boat building can be one of the most fun things that you've ever done, but you don't want to do it alone. The first thing I would do is to try to find who are your friends and family that would like to help build your boat. It is a great team building thing, a great party time. We love to make it a party when we come and work on our boats with lots of food and drink and have a fun time there in building the boat itself. Also, you need to be thinking about, you've got shipbuilders, your boat builders, but you also have a crew that you need to have. How many people are you going to have in your boat? Because that's one of the first things you need to know, because that dictates the size of your boat. So who is it that you're going to want in your boat? And then, one of the fun things, have a brainstorming session. Think about, okay, what will be our theme for this year? What will be the theme of our boat? You know, will it be nautical? Will it be a admiral there, an admiral's boat? Or would it be Batman and Robin, a cartoon theme? Or will it be a movie theme? Will it be Harry Potter? Will it be Lord of the Rings? You know, what theme will you have for your boat? We've seen spaceships. We've seen jets that were actually on the water itself. We've seen Cadillacs, you know, actually rowing across the water itself. There have been a lot of creative boats throughout the years here at the Cardboard Boat Regatta, and it is a lot of fun to see what people have dreamed up there with their boats. Now, I'm going to move on. Christy, why don't you go ahead and move to that first slide here, and we'll show you. I may do it right here too, can I? Okay, the boat doesn't have to be complicated to have fun. Right here we have a box. That looks like a box, doesn't it? It's a cardboard box, and they had a fun time painting that boat, obviously. And remember, you're going to hear a lot about paint, because that is going to be one of your best friends for waterproofing that cardboard. But look at the smiles on their faces, and look how much fun they're having. Now, this boat is not going to be easy to navigate because it is in the shape of a box. So that does make it tougher, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that shape. In addition to that, I only see one oar in the water, don't y'all? You know, that you got to kind of be able to paddle too to be able to navigate there, as Jay was talking about. Now we get a little more sophisticated here now with these boats, don't we? You know, look how they're streamlined here at the front of the boat. And now, the front of the boat, by the way, is called the prow. So the front of the boats of these is more streamlined, but these are 2 boats, by the way. Those are not one, although they're banged into each other right there. You've got to practice rowing and know how to steer your boats, or you can end up like this white boat right here, which is having trouble steering. And look, both of their oars are out of the water because there's no room between those boats, and they're not able to steer. And needless to say, the gray boat or the blue boat over here won the race because they were able to keep rowing because this boat was not able to steer out of harm's way. Both of these designs are not that complicated, but yet they worked very well because they did have a prow that would steer through the water. And you'll notice too, look at the weight distribution on these 2 right here. You'll see the front of the boat is setting up out of the water. They've got the bigger guy in the back, the smaller guy in the front there in the mix of it. Another thing to think about is where you're going to position your crew members in your boat. Well, pretty simple paint job on this one right here, isn't it? Not a lot there. They put a quick coat of paint on it. They've got their number on it. You'll have to paint your number, entry number on it. However, the real key to this boat is that it did cut the water. It was stable. It didn't fall over, because we'll talk about that too, is that when you're in the water, if you're not careful, you need to sit down in the water some or you'll flip over with that boat, which happens every year. These 2 boys right here were very, very good rowers, and they had a stable boat and did very well because they knew how to paddle, knew how to steer. And look, both of their paddles are out of the water at the same time, and they're rowing together, and they're digging in together as they go and knew how to steer this boat. Although, again, not a very complicated boat at all, but they had a stable boat there that went through the water. Well, Jay mentioned it. We have an award for sinking. And believe it or not, there are people that plan their sinkings. They're not all unplanned. And as you saw, cardboard will float, but it will sink also if you don't follow the guidelines that you're about to hear from Gary Daly and Bob Sherwood. But this particular one, look at the faces again. They are having a great time in this sinking. And, but of course, this is classic. This boat was way too small for these 3 teenage boys. You do have to do a little bit of math here, and I'll work through that in determining how big your boat needs to be and what the sizes and dimensions are. Very critical. Now we start getting into the whale size, the biggest size. Both of these boats were well designed, had put a lot of time into their theme and the way they painted, and also look, these were accomplished rowers, and this was a tight race. But I'll point out the thing that I think was the key to one winning over the other. This boat won. Doesn't look like they're going to, does it? Because they're on the outside here in the deal, but look at the front of this boat. The front of this boat, they've got a little bit of their weight distribution problem and perhaps a design problem with their boat because the prow set down in the water instead of being out of the water and cutting the water itself. Very important there that your prow not to be digging into the water, but to be cutting the water itself. And then, of course, you can see right here, a lot of fun for all. They are rowing as they're sinking. Do you see that part of their boat is missing? They didn't give up. They went down with the ship. And I don't remember if this one was a Titanic winner, but generally a lot of them that win the Titanic award continue to row and have a good time. And then I'll mention this also. You also ought to think about who you want there to watch you racing on race day. A very important thing to think about, because you want to make sure that you give your family and friends plenty of time to come, and they will be surprised about how much fun they have walking around, looking at the boats, seeing the different designs, and then cheering you on as you race, because it's a whole lot of fun. Now, I'll share a couple of things with you. You also need to think about where you're going to build your boat. And I share this story every year because it's classic. My first year to build a boat, we knew we needed a lot of room, and we found an office building that had an empty whole floor. We had lots of room in there. So we asked the office building owner if we could build the boat there. He said, sure, no problem. Well, we built the boat, and we were on the 3rd floor, and we couldn't get it down the stairwell. Hadn't thought it out. Well, we had to cut that boat in half and take it down and then repair it and put it back together again to race it on race day. In addition to that, you want to think about how you're going to transport that boat over to the boat regatta itself. And then, of course, it's always important to take very good care, because whenever you move that boat, you don't want to scratch it, dent it, hurt it in any way, because you spend a lot of time there on that boat. So be careful there as you move it from wherever you're working on it at to race day that day. Now let me get into some real engineering, y'all. And this was kind of fun for me there, because I'm a civil engineer, but I'm not a boat engineer. But you have to become a little bit of a boat engineer to be able to figure out what you need to do. Now these are different types of hulls, and they have varying degrees of success here. And of course, in your hull design, the only one that I personally have had experience in that is very stable but very slow is this one right here. And it's also very hard to steer. But perhaps one of the most successful through the years has been E, because you can see there that it does set up a little bit. It again helps cut the water. But even some of these others have really done pretty well, and it's mainly because even on B, if they have a good prow at the front, that even that can be successful there, because your prow or your front of your boat is cutting the water. Now, prow, even more important, front of the boat. Yes, we have had many submarine boats that they'll put them in the water, and because of this front, they row a couple of times and that boat dives down in the water and they're sunk there in the mix. And then, of course, the first boat that I showed you had the blunt nose. It was a cardboard box. Well, you can imagine when you're pushing against the water and you have a wall there, it's pretty hard to get it to move. So coming on in with the V-nose, slope nose, clipper ship, and boat nose all helps to cut that water as you move through it, and all work very well there as types of prows. Now, I showed you several pictures of boats that were sinking. And one of those was because the boat was way too small for the size of those teenagers. Do you remember that one? Well, you've got to do some calculations to see how big your boat is. And it's some pretty simple math that you can do. And does anybody know how much water weighs? It's 62.4 pounds per cubic feet. 62.4 pounds per cubic feet. I get those numbers mixed up sometime, don't I, Gary? But anyway, that's what that means is, y'all, is that water, it takes 60 pounds to displace 1 cubic foot of water. Well, I happen to have a cubic foot. This is 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. Let me illustrate to you. If you imagine this is your boat, and I've got 1 by 1 by 1, that means I have 1 cubic feet of volume here. And let's just take that round number of 62.4 and say it's 60. Well, if I were to put in 62.4 and divide by 12, which is then converting that feet to inches, then that means that for every 5 pounds I put in this 1 cubic foot boat, it should sink or sit in the water 1 inch. So let's see if it works. I got a 5 pound here. Does that look like it's sitting in there about 1 inch? Yeah, it is. And then look, I didn't put it right in the middle so you can see it leaning. They're in the mix. And then I add another 5 pounds, so I have 10 pounds in it. Then then my boat is sitting in the water a couple of inches there, and that's called draft. So depending on the weight of your people, you know, for instance, if you have a guy that's Gary's size, it's, you know, 200 pounds, give or take 50 pounds or so. And then we have a guy like James Gilmartin that's you know, soaking wet, probably about 160. You know, there's a difference. There's a difference there. So you've got to calculate how much your team members are going to weigh, and then don't forget about the weight of your boat too. You need to weigh your boat and calculate it, especially when you get up in the well size, because that can make a difference. And you remember I talked about weight distribution? If I had James and Gary as my team members, do y'all know which one I would put in the back to be my anchor? That's right, Gary Daly. And I'd have James there as my point man, because I want that boat, if I'm going that direction, I want that boat setting up there to be able to cut it. I don't want my big guy over here in the front, because you can see what happens when that, I'm not going anywhere then, am I? I'm not going anywhere. But you can see the calculation here on the screen there again. Here we've got a boat that's 5 by 2. They're adding the boat weight of approximately 25 pounds. Don't forget, too, your prow. That is volume 2. When you have your prow, the front of your boat, or the bow, if it sticks out from the back, too, that's still part of your volume. I want to talk about another important thing, is we have some guys that really work hard to keep this boat from sitting in the water very much. That's a real key, you know, because you don't want to sit in the water too much, or it makes it that much harder to get through it. However, if you get your center of gravity up too high, in other words, you don't have enough boat in the water, then you have the opportunity, when you stick that paddle in, if you're not balanced right, you're going to roll that boat. So it's important that you hit that center of gravity such that you do have an opportunity there to be stable, so that the boat won't be prone to flip. I also like to keep a minimum 18 inches there width on it, no matter what size your boat is, so that you can be more stable, because there's nothing more frustrating than to cut it too close there on your center of gravity and not have your stability. And there you've got a great boat, but yet it wasn't stable enough for you to negotiate around, and if you make any mistake in your rowing, then you're going to roll the boat. This is a typical blueprint here for a guppy boat. Here we're talking about a total length of about 13 feet. Again, that 18-inch width on it there, and it's folded. You see all the different dimensions here. What that is that is all folds that are moved over, and Gary is going to get into that. But it's important for you to draw up a model of your boat. You know, do a blueprint, do a scaled model of it. It works out very well. In fact, engineering, that's one of our things too. We'll take a 1/10 size model and stick it in the pond, see how it sits. You know, take the dimensions the same way, and you can see how it sits in there, and you can test out your blueprints. Now we start getting bigger here in your Dolphin there, and here we're sitting there at a much wider boat, so that we actually can have more people in the boat itself. And then I'm going to jump on up to well dimensions here, because this well dimension, as you'll see, it's 4 feet wide. But the time you add the prow and the bow there on it, we're looking at around 18 feet there for your well boat. The boats can get fairly large, and yes, they can hold grown men. And in there we've had the firemen and police many times there, where we'll have 15 guys in a boat there negotiating it. Now, remember to plan. Remember to include a lot of people, include a lot of friends. Let everybody know you're doing it. make a party out of it. Make a good social gathering out of each time when you build your boat. Pay attention to how big your boat needs to be. Plan your plans, and then you're ready to build your boat and have a great day. Not just the day of the race, but all the way through. It can be an awesome time between now and race day, and you're having a great time building your boat. Y'all, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Gary Daly and Bob Sherwood now, who are master boat builders here, who have so much experience. And one of my highlights is to look and see what Randall Mill Pharmacy, Gary Daly and Bob Sherwood are going to come up with this year. So I'll turn it over to them.
Okay, before we do that, for those that are paying attention, I have some prizes to give away if you can give me the correct answers. I have 4 questions. Okay, the first one is, who can answer the question of what are the 3 types of boats that we have in our competition? Okay, let's go right over there. Guppy, dolphin, and whale. Very good. All right, so you get a box cutter. All right? That'll become very handy for you, all right? The next question is, and this is a quote from Mr. Williams, your boat does not need to be complicated to have what? Yes, ma'am? Fun! Very good. Very good. And I have a backpack for you. Just what you always wanted, with our logo on it. Okay, and the next question is, you need to brainstorm for something. What might that be? Yes, ma'am. For theme, very good. I have a towel for you. Okay, a beach towel. And so one of the things that we do before the youth races, especially, because a lot of the youth show up and they've got themes, they've got songs, they've got cheers, they might have a boombox with them. As we go around with the judges, we have a lot of fun with the themes. All right, the last question, which will be a $10 gift certificate value card to Westlake Arlington Hardware. Now, this is a little abstract, but you'll get to know me. The NHL and the Cardboard Boat Building School, what do they have in common? Yes, sir. No. But I'll give you this instead. I'll pay you off. But what? I still have another question. I mean, who has the answer to that question? Cardboard Boat Building School and the NHL, what do they have in common? No. They talk a lot about hulls. All right, I'll keep the glasses. All right, next up, Gary Daly and Bob Sherwood. Gary, Bob.
Thanks, Jay, I think. Before we get started on actually putting a boat together, which is what we're going to try to do here today, we're going to try to just build a scaled-down model of what Jeff has talked to you about. We want to talk a little bit first about the supplies that you're going to need to build this boat. Jeff talked about finding a big garage or a clean place to do it, someplace you've got a little elbow room to work on your boat. But you're going to need a variety of supplies. First of all, of course, you're going to need cardboard. Westlake Ace Hardware every year keeps in stock for the regatta sheets of cardboard that are available to us. They usually have 2 types of cardboard, a double-ply cardboard and a single-ply cardboard. And most boats, you'll have the opportunity to use both kinds of cardboard. And we'll take a little closer look at that in a little while. Also, we usually use just wood glue, like an Elmer's wood glue, to glue our cardboard together. Need a variety of tools, box cutters, carpet knife, utility knife, something to cut your cardboard with. Usually need to have available a straight edge, so you can make nice, clean, straight cuts. And you can use a variety of things from that, from anything as simple as a wooden yardstick to what we have here. We frequently use a chalk line to snap a straight line on the cardboard to make long cuts. That works out nice. Of course, tape measure, pencils for measuring and marking things off. Now we're kind of, if you can think through with me, we're kind of to a point now where our boat's mostly assembled, but we want to cover the seams and joints with something. Some of the seams and joints we will cover with tape. I like to use this paper tape, like right here. It's just the old-fashioned packing tape. You wet it and apply it on there. Works really well. You can also use just a masking tape. That's a paper-based tape. That's a legal product. There's also available a self-adhesive paper tape, which is a fine product to use. You don't have to wet it. You just apply it on. A little bit more expensive than the paper tape, but works quite well. Packing tape, duct tape, that's a no-no. Illegal to use on your boat. It has plastic in it. Can't use any plastic materials. What you can use also on some of the seams and joints is caulk. There's a couple of different kind of caulks you can use. You can use a latex caulk. This particular one is a latex silicone combination, which is what I like to use. It's relatively inexpensive. It smooths out nicely, cleans up easily, and you can paint it, and not terribly expensive. You can also use, it's legal to use a silicone caulk on your joints. Silicone caulk is more expensive, takes longer to dry, can't really paint it very well, and stinks. So I don't like to use silicone for those reasons, so I'd recommend using a latex or a latex silicone combo. Then once you have your boat built, and we'll go into this in a little more detail later, after you've got the boat built, seams covered, then we usually like to paint our boats with 3 or 4 coats of a polyurethane varnish. There's 2 kinds of polyurethane you can use. There's an oil base and a water base. The water base is a little more expensive, dries faster. The advantages are it dries faster and it's water cleanup. It's easy to clean up. Then there's an oil-based polyurethane that you can use. The advantage to that is it waterproofs the boat a little bit better, and it's a little less expensive. The disadvantages are it takes a little longer to dry, it's a little harder to clean up because it is oil-based, and it's kind of like the silicone caulk. It has pretty strong odor to it. So if you want to do that in an outside area where you have good ventilation. And that's usually just a clear coat that you put on your cardboard. After you've coated it with polyurethane, then you want to come back and paint your boat. Here again, you can use a water-based product or an oil-based product. You can just use regular house paint to paint your boat. Works fine as long as you've got a good polyurethane base underneath to waterproof the boat. Really, at that point, the paint is just adding the color. It adds a little extra waterproofing property, but really not necessary if you've got it coated good with polyurethane. The advantages to the latex paint are it's not very expensive, water cleanup, it's easy to clean up, and it dries fast. The disadvantage is it doesn't quite have the waterproofing properties that the oil-based paints do. So, and then there again, the oil base is a little more expensive, oil base a little harder to clean up, just like the polyurethane, stinks a little bit, takes a little longer to dry. So you'll just have to make your own choices on that. And you can, when you're painting your boat, you can use a roller, you can use brushes. We usually use a combination of both. Whatever you prefer is, however you want to do that. Either way is fine. Then we all have a variety of clamps and other things here that we'll get into here in a little bit. So anyway, now you kind of know the materials that you have to have on hand. Jeff has talked about some of the engineering tips on how to design your boat. First thing I recommend everybody do before they build their boat is to do a scale drawing, a scaled down drawing, and make a model. Here's just a little rough sketch, a very rough sketch of a drawing layout similar to what I have over here. Y'all can see that drawing looks similar to that, and I just did a pretty rough sketch, all right? Then I came back and I did a more detailed sketch on a manila folder, Just took an old file folder. These work great for making your models and doing your designs on. I laid this out on here, and as you can see, it looks very, very similar to what we've got laid out on this big sheet of cardboard here. Then I took this, cut it, folded it, taped it together, and made a small scale boat to just have an idea what my boat's going to look like, how it's going to, how the folds are going to come together, how are all the seams going to come together. And the first boat I built, I probably did 8 or 10 of these before I figured out how I wanted my boat to come together. Now, sometimes you'll get it on the first try or the second try, but you can make one of these in about 30 minutes. To make a full-size boat like that takes hours and hours and hours. So make your mistakes with a small scale model with manila folders. Make your mistakes there to figure out how you want to do it, and then you can just scale that up to put on a big sheet of cardboard to get your boat going. Now this boat that we're going to try to put together here in about 30 minutes, we're going to go kind of fast, and I'm sure you all will have some questions, and I'll probably in haste might skip over a step or something, and but if you can, just hold that question, and Bob and I'll stay after as long as we need to and answer any questions anybody has about this. Now, this is going to, when we put this all together, this boat's only going to be about 12 inches wide, and it'll be approximately 8 feet long, 7.5 or 8 feet long. It's too small for anybody to get in, but it'll give you an idea how a boat folds and goes together. But when you go to build your boat, it's obviously going to need to be bigger than this. Usually the sheets of cardboard we have available to us are 4x8 sheets. But to make a big slab of cardboard to fold up to make a whale-sized boat, oftentimes you have to splice a number of sheets of cardboard together. And we're going to give you just a quick demonstration on, here again, a scaled down version of how we would do that. If you can, just imagine this is a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of cardboard. In other words, that big. And it's very simple to splice these together. Really all we do is we lay the cardboard, the big cardboard sheets out on a garage floor or wherever you're working, side by side, and then normally just to kind of tack them in place, before we glue them together, we'll put a little piece of masking tape on there just to hold them together. We'll just peel off a couple of small pieces of masking tape. Here again, if you can just imagine this is all being laid out on your garage floor. We kind of got them tacked together so we're going to make one big giant sheet that we can fold up and make a bigger boat out of. Now when we do that, here again, imagine these are 4x8 sheets of cardboard. What we'll do is we'll cut some other smaller strips of cardboard, maybe 6 to 10 inches wide, so the overlap onto each big sheet of cardboard is, 3 to 5 inches, something like that is usually plenty. And what we'll do is we'll glue those and lay them on there to make one giant sheet. And Bob will help me glue these up here real quick and give you a quick demonstration on how we like to smooth the glue out too. When you're doing the glue on your cardboard, there's a little bit of a fine line, and as you practice and do it more, you'll get the feel of it. Hold on just a second, Bob. Hold that up. That's about the right amount of glue you want on there. You can get too much, and you can also get not enough. If you get, the way this glue works, and Jeff's an engineer, he could explain the technicalities of it better than I can, but basically the cardboard absorbs the moisture or the water out of the glue, and that's what causes the glue to stick to the cardboard, and then it gets dry and it sticks together. If you get too much glue on there, it takes a long time for that cardboard to absorb all of that moisture out of the glue that you put on there if you get too much. If you don't get enough, the glue dries too fast and you don't get even coverage or even adhesion of the glue to the cardboard. But that's about the right amount, and if you guys want to come up afterwards, we can show you in a little more detail, or just do a little scrap piece and show you. But what we would do to make this big sheet, we would just overlay these splices on there. Go ahead, Bob, stick that on there. And if you got the right amount of glue on there, you can hold these in place on your big sheets that you're going to do in your garage, maybe just a few minutes. And we'll use a variety of things just to hold it down. If you got a paint can or a 12-pack of soda or something, you can just set any kind of weight on there just to give it a little pressure, just to hold everything down. And that usually works pretty nicely. We'll give that just a second to set up. But that's an idea, just to give you an idea of how we make a great big sheet of cardboard. In the case of this one, this would be 8 feet wide by 16 feet long. And that would be big enough to make probably a guppy, either a good-sized guppy or maybe even a small dolphin boat out of. But those are calculations you'll have to do when you lay it out on your manila folder and figure out exactly how everything's going to lay out for you. And this is not completely dry yet, but it's dry enough that we can hold it up. You can see that we've made one big piece out of that. So we'll proceed on. We had our manila folder, and here again we transferred it onto this bigger piece of cardboard. And what you're going to want to do is, when you get it transferred on there, what we've done so you can see it is we've made dashed lines in the areas where we need to make a crease or a fold. And the solid lines that you see are areas where we need to make a cut. Now, one of the questions that always comes up is, well, how do you crease cardboard? How do you bend it? Really, that piece down there. The way we crease or bend cardboard, you can use a variety of things. This is my favorite little tool. This is just a $2 coping saw that you can buy any hardware store. Ace, Westlake Ace has these. It just has a nice round corner on there. Bob has an old crescent wrench that he likes, and it's got just a round, smooth corner on it. Anything that won't dig into the cardboard. Okay, we've got a solid piece of cardboard here. You know, this is some double ply. It's pretty sturdy. But to make a crease, we just take this handle and we run it across the surface of the cardboard, back and forth several times, and it creates a line there. Once you've got that line, you just give it a little gentle pressure and it folds right on your line. Very simple, very easy. Now, that fold I did was across the flutes of the cardboard. You can see the little waffle inside the cardboard. That was across the flutes. Sometimes you need to make a crease with the flutes. It's the same thing. You just go back and forth gently, applying a little extra pressure each time. Same thing. Just give it a little gentle kink there. And it didn't bend on my fold because I didn't crease it enough. Well, yes it did. I'm sorry. Thought I missed my fold. When you're folding with the flutes, that does happen sometimes, though. If you don't get it creased quite enough, it folds easy this way. I can fold this cardboard without creasing it because it's with the flutes. If I try to do that against the flutes, across them, I can't do it. It'll just crumble. You have to get a good clean crease there. But that's just a quick lesson on how to crease. If anybody wants to try that or play with this afterwards, we've got some scraps up here and we can fool around with that and I'll show you.